Lions, who are getting a ton of hype. Didn't even mention it. We're just a little over 2 months away from the NFL season. Thursday, September 7th, 8:20 Eastern Time, Lions at Chiefs to open it up. Lions are getting a lot of respect out of Super Bowl for the city of Detroit.
I'm going to say right now it's closed. And the reason I'm going to say it's closed right now is because as box office as this offense is, they did just
it's really impressive how they built this roster in a couple years, I will say.
They did just field one of the worst defenses in the history of football last season.
And
so that is when you're in a conference where you have to go through the Philadelphia Eagles, when you got to go through the Niners, when you got to go through the Cowboys, when you got to go through even like a team like the Vikings.
Yes.
Having one of the worst defenses ever, not going to cut it as it pertains to winning a championship. But what I will say also is there is a chance that we can see the Lions make a run at it. This is a very sneaky team. It's a very gritty team. And it's a team that I think gets slept on a lot. Like, I know they're getting overrated, but I also think there's still a very large population of the NFL community that there's so many of people that think that the Lions are so overrated that they don't want to give the Lions their credit. And let's be 100% honest. This is a football team that right now should be, and I think they are last time I checked, they should be the odds-on favorites to win this division. The Packers, my Packers, we don't have Aaron Rodgers anymore. The Bears, I know they made moves, but they're still not there yet. They still have a lot of holes and a lot of
7 wins would be a huge W for them this year.
And as much as we want to give respect to the Vikings because they've kind of always been the second best team in the division behind the Packers, the Vikings have lost some pieces, and their defense is also extremely bad. The difference is it's just not as bad as the Lions' defense. The Lions should be favored to win this division. They should be favored to make it to the playoffs and maybe win a playoff game if the wild card matchup is favorable. But they're not competing for a championship just yet. Unfortunately, this is not prime Jared Goff with the Rams.
Right.
And I know that Jared Goff didn't play that great in the Super Bowl that they went to a couple years ago against the Patriots. But if this was that Jared Goff, I'd be confident enough to say that maybe it's half open. But this defense isn't that good, and Jared Goff has been doing just enough to keep them competitive. He hasn't been doing enough to make me think that they're going to be competing for a championship. So it's closed right now. But if they find a quarterback, whether it's via trade or via the draft, in the next 2, 3, maybe even 5 years, we could be talking about the Lions literally competing for a championship, which I don't think is something we've ever done, at least not since Barry Sanders was on the roster.
Right. No, I'm right there with you. This is a tough one between half open and closed because, you look at the offense of Jared Goff and you even talk about how he didn't play well in the Super Bowl and kind of the expectations that were on him first year in Detroit. And I feel like his numbers in Detroit have actually been pretty good, if not kind of comparable to what Jared Goff was asked to do with the Rams. He had a couple of those moments where he could be, one of the top quarterbacks in the league or make a big throw, but I don't feel like that was really Jared Goff's MO when he's inside of an offense. And we saw like he goes to the Super Bowl. This was kind of funny. He goes to the Super Bowl and maybe at that time in football, the hardest division. I think Kyler Murray was just about to be a rookie, or maybe he was a rookie yet. I'm not sure. Toughest division in football. Sean McVay is your head coach. You get to a Super Bowl and play the tightest Super Bowl in NFL history against the greatest coach of all time, and you lose your job. So like Jared Goff is a good, not great. I'm not going to put him in that conversation, but he is a good, respectable quarterback. You look at Jahmyr Gibbs, how they pick him up. Jameson Williams is suspended, unfortunately. You do have Marvin Jones Jr. You would like to see TJ Hawkinson still in that Lions uniform, but of course he is with the division rival of the Vikings. And then when you go over to that defensive side of the ball, and this is why I didn't really care for the Lions draft overall, and I understood the perspective. Jahmyr Gibbs, Jack Campbell. I'm trying to remember a couple of the other picks. Oh, they also go and get, I think, they picked up Brian Branch, correct?
Yes, they did.
Yeah, they did pick up Brian Branch. So, kind of their perspective is, hey, we could get maybe the best player at each position, if not the second best player within our first 3 picks. But when you look at how the defense was bad, when you look at even though they take Aiden Hutchinson last year, who was maybe the best player in the draft, one of the best defensive linemen, they still can't stop the run. They do bring in C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Of course, they do bring in Cameron Sutton. I'm still going to go half open because I feel like they made enough moves in the offseason, even though they weren't favorable to their situation. Jahmyr Gibbs is still going to ball out. I think Jack Campbell's still going to be good. Brian Branch was still by far the best safety in the draft, And then I want to say that they also brought in, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know. No, they did bring in Sam Laporta. There you go. I was just looking at the depth chart, making sure I had, some of the draft players right. Dan Campbell also as a coach, I feel like he's still starting to get his respect in the league. Like the way the Lions have remade this depth chart over the last couple seasons and just realistically how I think they've done better than most people expected after
Oh
Matthew
yeah,
Stafford got out of there. I've
yeah,
got that respect to make it half open for them. I do believe that this offense could not hang with the best in the league, but if they got into a shootout, maybe they'd win, I don't know, 4 out of 10 games, 5 out of 10 games.
sure,
I don't really
sure.
know that spectrum that they're on in terms of how well can they actually hang with
Mhm.
these NFL offenses, but I'll leave it there at half open.